Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to 2pPressStart's. I'm your host, GiantKiller, and today we're going to be talking about the first expansion for Hearthstone, Curse of Naxxramas, which was announced at PAX East and is slated for release this summer, which for those Diablo 2 fans among us means we'll be seeing it sometime in 2017. But hey, we're keeping our fingers crossed that it's actually going to be released this summer, and really, the expansion can't come out soon enough in my opinion, because Hearthstone could really use some new cards to help shake up the metagame a bit. And of course, Curse of Naxxramas definitely promises to do that and much more. So, there are going to be two parts to this video. Here in this first part, we're going to be walking you through all of the general information we've been able to dig up so far about Curse of Naxxramas. We're going to start out by talking a bit about how the expansion is going to work, including the format, the release schedule, and how to get your hands on those new cards. And all this info is going to be straight from Blizzard, be it from their official posts, their developer interviews, and things like that. Then, in part 2 of the video, we're going to be talking a bit about each and every one of the new cards that have been revealed to us so far. And finally, we'll talk a bit about some of our predictions for how all of this is going to shake up the Hearthstone metagame. So let's get started by talking about how the expansion is going to work. Blizzard has described it as not just an expansion, but an adventure mode, and they've explained that that means we're going to be playing through a series of new PvE bosses in a predetermined order, a lot like how the tutorial worked. And so you'll be unlocking 30 new cards by beating the bosses in this adventure mode. And based on the info we have so far, we know Naxxramas is going to be released in 5 parts, themed after the 5 different wings of Naxxramas. And that means nostalgia value through the roof for World of Warcraft raiders. Blizzard will be releasing 1 wing per week over the course of a month. So what does that mean for getting your hands on the new cards? Well, you'll have to be patient for some of them. And while there are 30 cards to earn in total, you're going to be earning different cards in different ways. Now, some of the new cards you're going to earn by defeating the various boss encounters within each wing of Naxxramas. And that's why this footage of me running through the Hearthstone tutorial PvE encounters is a little bit more relevant than just throwing some random gameplay footage in there. The boss fights are probably going to be fairly similar to the tutorial encounters. Each boss is going to have a new hero power, new minions, new cards to play, and you're going to have to beat each boss to unlock a card and move on to the next fight. There's been confirmation that there are going to be at least 15 boss fights split up among the 5 wings, so we're assuming it's going to be roughly 3 per wing. Then you're going to earn 1 legendary card for fully completing each wing, for a total of 5 legendaries from the expansion. Then there are the 9 class-specific cards, 1 per class, that you're going to get by beating each of the 9 corresponding class-specific challenges. What's a class-specific challenge, you might be asking? Well, these are PvE encounters where you have to use a specific class and a predetermined deck to beat the boss, so that might make things a little bit more challenging. Blizzard has indicated the goal here was to get people to try out other classes and maybe try new builds for other classes that they hadn't considered before. So basically they're piling these on top of the daily quests in their ongoing effort to get players outside their comfort zone and trying out new decks. Alright, so we've been promised 30 new cards. So 3 cards from each wing, times 5 wings, makes it 15. 9 more from class challenges makes 24, and then 5 legendaries from beating the 5 wings brings us up to 29. Well, they haven't specifically revealed how we're going to be earning card number 30 yet. It's been confirmed that you can get all 30 of the cards without buying any packs. So chances are that 30th card will be a reward from some sort of final boss. Or it could be something as simple as collect the other 29 cards. And as soon as you purchase a wing, that wing's cards are going to start showing up in your arena draft pools too. So, like a hungry customer waiting in line at a KFC, you might be asking, how do I get my hands on these wings? As we mentioned before, there's no release date right now, but they've narrowed it down to this summer. And like we mentioned, it'll be released bit by bit, wing by wing, over the course of about a month. And just to get you hooked, the first wing, which is going to be the Spider Wing, is going to be free for everyone. The second, third, fourth, and fifth wings will be pay to enter. But now, before people start clamoring that Naxxramas makes the game pay to win, keep in mind you can pay for this with either gold or cash. There's, of course, some controversy over the 5th wing. There's controversy with anything when it comes to the internet, but it was mentioned in one interview that the 5th wing is unlocked as a bonus for completing the first 4, which some people have interpreted to mean it's also going to be free. But the official Blizzard post, keep in mind, has indicated that only the 1st wing is going to be free for players. Either way, the price in gold and cash has not been announced yet, but we're waiting with bated breath to hear what it's going to be. And now let's talk a little bit about the difficulty level of the expansion. The developers have suggested that the planned difficulty level for Naxxramas is fairly low. Basically, they want everyone to be able to get these cards, not just the veterans with every single legendary card unlocked. So they've said they plan on making the encounters easy enough for newer players to complete them, but that doesn't mean that you aren't going to have to work for it. Blizzard has indicated that players might have to make decks specifically tailored to beat particular bosses, and even then, some of the encounters might take several tries to complete. So far, there's been no official announcement regarding multiple difficulty settings, scaling difficulty based on MMR, or anything like that. So basically, one size fits all when it comes to Naxxramas, but that size is designed to be fairly accommodating to new players. So what else is new in Naxxramas? Well, in addition to the 30 new playable cards, all of these new PvE encounters means we're also going to be seeing a lot of new cards being played by the bosses that we as players won't have access to. These are cards like Stomp, the Banana-Flinging Monkeys, and Barrel Toss from the King Mukla tutorial encounter. And we've already been given one example, and that's Mind Apocalypse. It's been confirmed that the bosses are going to be playing cards that are not available for players to use, and because they don't have to be balanced for competitive play, they're likely to be a bit more off the wall, and in some cases probably downright broken. One developer has described some of them as totally brutal, and I'm pretty excited to see what they've come up with. What about new mechanics? Well, we've learned that there aren't going to be any new keywords like Death Rattle or Battle Cry in Naxxramas, but there are going to be some new, never-before-seen mechanics thrown in there. But, because Loose Lips sink Dreadnoughts, they haven't told us exactly what those are going to be yet. We can always speculate and hope, though. Personally, I'd really like to see a very small minion that can't attack enemy minions, and can't be attacked by enemy minions either. Basically, this guy would be sort of a recurring direct damage dealer that could only be stopped with a taunt, which would mean it can't attack at all, or removal spells. And as I mentioned in my latest question and answers video, I'd also really like to see a mechanic that lets you attack your opponent's hand, causing your opponents to discard some cards. But that's all pipe dreams at this point. So let's move on from new mechanics. In addition to all the new bosses and all the new cards we're going to be getting, we've also been promised a new game board to play on, boasting lots of interactive elements and a creepy Hearthstone vibe. And in addition to that game board, which is already looking like a work of art, there will also be some new, well, works of art. The developers have indicated they'll be using some existing pieces of artwork from the Warcraft lore, but they've also had some new pieces of art commissioned just for the expansion. Now that may not be a big deal to some people, but I've always really loved TCG art, so I'm thrilled to hear that. And hey, more TCG art commissions means more artists making money doing what they love to do, and I'm thrilled to hear that too. Alright, so now let's talk about the 800-pound Mukla in the room. How the hell are they going to balance this expansion in a metagame that's so reactionary that changing even a single card could turn the whole thing on its head? We know that they're focusing on the theme of death with Naxxramas. All of the cards are going to revolve around death, benefiting from death, causing death in some way. Blizzard has confirmed that some of these cards, though, were specifically designed to be counters to existing deck archetypes, or counters to cards that are on their watch list for balance reasons. But in terms of the general balance and power level of the Naxxramas cards, Blizzard has confirmed that there's not going to be any sort of beta testing or public test realm for this expansion's cards. All the testing is going to be done by Blizzard's own design and balance team in-house. Now, that team's been working hard on Naxxramas. We know that the Naxx cards have been in testing by that team since before the Hearthstone release, so our hopes and dreams for a balanced metagame rest entirely on that team's shoulders. Thankfully, as TCG expansions go, this one is really small. By comparison, Magic's first expansion added 92 cards to its pool, you know, back when a Nerubian egg was called a Rook egg. So a smaller amount of cards in the expansion means they've hopefully been able to spend more time on each card and that card's potential interactions. Because they're it. They're the thin red line. Once the balance team is satisfied, they're just going to release these cards into the wild and see what happens. At least we hope they'll wait until the balance team is satisfied anyway, because it's been confirmed that if something turns out stronger than they'd hoped, they're relying on the players to sort it out for themselves. Blizzard has indicated they'll be extremely reluctant to nerf Naxxramas cards after the expansion, and honestly, I support that wholeheartedly. I've long said that Blizzard ought to avoid making knee-jerk reactionary nerfs. They need to have faith in their players and faith in themselves. They need to trust that they've given the players the tools to let the metagame sort itself out. And at the very least, their professed hesitancy to nerf is good news for any players who are fearful of that age-old con in any game with a payment system, which is make the latest thing really good so everybody buys it, then nerf the crap out of it to bring it back into line with everything else. Hopefully we won't see any of that here. And that's it for part 1 of our Naxxramas preview/info dump. So stay tuned for part 2, where we'll be talking about each of the new Naxxramas cards that Blizzard has revealed to us so far, and we'll also be talking about some impacts these cards might have on the Hearthstone meta, including existing cards and powers, like Silence. It's going to be big. So, be sure and check out part 2, which we ought to have ready to go here soon, TM. And thanks very much for watching part 1 of our preview. If you have any questions you'd like to see answered, or anything else you'd like to see addressed in part 2, please let us know in the comments down below. And if you like our videos, please hit that subscribe button to become a part of the always growing, always awesome 2pPressStart family. And we'll keep bringing you more great Hearthstone content right here on 2pPressStart.